As House of the Dragon has repeatedly made clear, House Targaryen is one of the most formidable houses to have ever ruled over Westeros. Both tragic and beautiful, cruel and benevolent, it's easy to see why they have exerted such a hold over the imagination of both their own fictional counterparts and readers and viewers of Martin's books and their adaptations. Though they have many different personalities, there are some key traits that House Targaryen tends to have. As a result, there are also a number of quotes spoken by various members which help to sum up their entire way of looking at the world. Dracarys, House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 1, The Heirs of the Dragon. This is the word spoken by almost every single Targaryen. It is the cue, of course, for the dragon they command to breathe fire and, as such, is a very dangerous word, indeed. As has been shown time and time again, it is the dragons that are key to the Targaryens and their sense of identity. Without them, they would never have been able to exert such a powerful hold over Westeros. The ability to wield such a weapon of mass destruction, and to command them with a word, is a large part of what makes the Targaryens so fascinating and so deadly. You cannot live your life in fear. House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. Daemon Targaryen is one of Matt Smith's best roles. Throughout his time on House of the Dragon, he has shown himself to be a true scion of this house. With this quote, he reveals the fundamental instability at the heart of the Targaryen character. Even the wisest rulers of this particular house have moments when their bravery outpaces their discretion. This is something that Daemon has in common with his niece, Rhaenyra. It is also a trait that will make both of them formidable combatants in the Dance of the Dragons. That doesn't stop us from doing what we want. House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. Part of what makes House Targaryen one of the most formidable houses in Westeros is just how little they care about what others think of them. As this quote from Daemon demonstrates, this is an attitude that continues to structure how they look at the world and those around them. Because of the power they wield through the throne and through access to dragons, they truly can operate outside of the normal laws that govern the laws of men. As events will prove, however, it is precisely this attitude that will ultimately spell the doom of the dynasty itself when it comes to believe too much in its own inviolability. You are the dragon. Your word is truth and law. House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. From the moment he appears in House of the Dragon, Daemon proves that he is truly a member of his house. These words are a nice distillation of the attitude that most Targaryens seem to take about their role in Westeros and their relationships with others. In this sense, Daemon is actually more of a typical Targaryen than his brother Viserys. The members of this dynasty truly do see their word as law, and woe to anyone who is foolish enough to stand against them, whether commoner or noble. If you ever betray me, I'll burn you alive. Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 2, Stormborn Daenerys was one of the best characters in Game of Thrones. In large part, this was because the series allowed the viewer to see just how much of a Targaryen she was. As this quote makes clear, she had the tendency of most in her house to value loyalty above all else. For her, this seemed only natural, as she wanted to claim the Iron Throne. At the same time, it also reveals her dynasty's tendency toward violence, their willingness to meet any threat and particularly any treachery with the iron fist of revenge and brutality. Those who would harm you will die screaming. Game of Thrones Season 1, Episode 10, Fire and Blood. Throughout Game of Thrones, Daenerys was one of those people who believed quite firmly in the rightness of her own actions. In this sense, she was not just like many of the other kings and queens of Westeros but also very specifically Targaryen. Her loyalty to those that she had taken under her wing was laudable. At the same time, this quote also reveals the edge that always goes along with a Targaryen's blessing. They might defend those who are loyal to them, but their penchant for violence and destruction is never far away, either. They can live in my new world or die in their old one. Game of Thrones Season 4, Episode 7, Mockingbird. Part of what made Daenerys such a compelling character in Game of Thrones was her utter belief in her own moral rightness. With lines like this one, she showed that there was very little she wouldn't do in her pursuit of what she viewed as a more just and ethical world. Of course, this is very much in keeping with the general ethos of being a Targaryen. For members of this particular family, it's taken as a given that they have the right to remake the world as they see fit, no matter who they have to destroy on the way. When I am queen, I will create a new order. House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 2. Rhaenyra Targaryen has already shown that she is one of the most formidable members of House Targaryen. Like so many of her bloodline, she believes absolutely in her right to rule. To that end, there is very little that she won't do as she pursues the Iron Throne for herself. And, as is usually the case with the Targaryens, this reveals just how much she is also willing to tear down the world in order to make sure that it accords with her vision. She is, then, both a Targaryen and a fitting heir to her ancestor Aegon the Conqueror. You don't want to wake the dragon, do you? Game of Thrones Season 1, Episode 1, Winter is Coming. Viserys Targaryen was one of the most notable villains of Game of Thrones. His vicious cruelty toward Daenerys was difficult to watch, but despite this, it was also very characteristic behavior of a Targaryen. As this quote reveals, he has internalized the idea that he was, himself, a dragon such as his forebears rode. More to the point, this quote also reveals more than a little bit of the madness that was also a key trait of the Targaryen bloodline, particularly in its later generations. Without them, we're just like everyone else. House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 1, The Heirs of the Dragon. From the moment she appears in House of the Dragon, Rhaenyra makes it clear she will be someone to fear. In large part, this stems from her true Targaryen nature. This quote, which refers to the family's famous dragons, neatly sums up both her personality and that of her house more generally. They know very well that it is their dragons that allow them to be some of the most feared warriors in all of the Seven Kingdoms. And, like everyone else in her family, she knows that without them, their power would be fatally weakened.